Alright, new project today. Started trap shooting again a little bit, so it's time to upgrade and service some presses here. 3 Hornady 366s, you've seen those before if you've watched any of my other reloading videos. And the one that's still set up on the bench is set up for my 16-yard load, or I'm tuning it for my 16-yard load. It's the newest of the 3 366s that I've got. These are all Pacific presses, which are it's a Hornady 366 is what it is, but the early ones were Pacific, and they say they're a division of Hornady. The early ones were manual index. Handicapped loads, I'm going to set up one of these presses, probably this one when it's done, because this is going to be, I believe, the newer of the two. This is the first one that I originally bought. It shows some wear in it. It's got a little catch in the mechanism when you cycle it. I don't know exactly where that is, but we're going to figure that out. All of the presses loaded fine. I bought this one and the newer one at the same time out of an estate. These are the two that I'm going to work on. We're going to service both of them, but we're also going to do some upgrades on it. And these are planned upgrades. I'm just now getting around to doing them since I'm shooting and want to service the presses anyway. We might as well do the upgrades on them. The main one and the first one we're going to do is auto indexing. Now, this is the first press that I bought. It's already been converted to auto index. And Hornady at least sold the kit. I don't know if they still do or not, but it auto indexes. And so you don't have to manually rotate it. This you have to manually rotate through the stations, and it indexes. This is way out of adjustment. I converted this one early on to auto index. I'm not sure if Hornady still offers this conversion kit or not, but I'm going to start building my own, I think. I've seen two different setups of these index. The mechanism underneath that advances it is on kind of a roller cam setup, so when you cycle it down, it's spring loaded, so it runs it back to that position, and then you're coming down on a cam riding on a roller, and that's what advances it. Now the later style, which is on the other press that I've got back there, has a pawl that reaches back and grabs, it hooks here, and it pulls it forward. Whereas this one slides back, and then it pushes it forward. Now I prefer this design myself because with the carousel empty, why, it will still advance every time. You can pull it out of the way so that it doesn't advance, and you can on the one where it pulls too. The problem with the one that pulls is unless the carousel is full, on mine anyway, why, it will push the, if you don't have a full carousel, it will push it back out of index there. So this I feel is a better design. The hook style may be able to be adjusted to where that wouldn't be an issue, and I haven't looked at that. When that press is eventually pulled apart and reworked, well, then I'll look at that and see if that can be adjusted. Otherwise, I may very well convert it to this style since I'll be building parts for this anyway. Now the auto index itself does just that, it indexes. I've taken it a little bit farther than that. I went ahead and bored my hole here, and I put an ejector wire here so that it acts very much like the newer ones, where it comes around to this position and it drops a shell down through the bottom and ejects it. So it cycles just like that position, and then on the next one it will kick it out and down through, normally down through. So anyway, I'm going to convert this one to the same style as this. We'll do the exact same thing. So that'll be the main part of this. The other changes that are going to happen is I will upgrade the primer system to the newer primer system. There's a little bit of difference there. We'll change that over. And we'll put swing out wad guides on both of these presses. Both of them have the standard inline wad guide to go on there, and we'll convert them to the newer style swing out. And I'll show everything in detail once we get to that far. But that's kind of the project that's going on for right now. We'll put new hopper tubes on, of course, because these are all cracked out on these, and they discolor over time if you leave powder in them, and even with shot too, why, they'll discolor those tubes. So we'll see some upgrades on these, and we'll move along fairly quickly. Like I say, the main thing to start is going to be the auto advance. The newer one I see to eject them out the bottom has a trough or a tray, guide tray, that hooks on the bottom of the primer hopper on this sheet metal. It extends back and down, so it guides the shells out and back. On this one, and I had nothing to compare it to when I did this one, get it up out of the way, I just put a little sheet metal shield on here, and it seems to work fine. I've been happy with it, although we may build a little shield like they put on the newer ones, because it just screws onto the bottom. So swing out wad guides will take a little bit of modification to the bottom casting. The later models, and the difference in the castings between the Auto Advance, these are both DL 366s. The later ones, or the later one that I have, is just designated as a 366. There's no DL designation. The difference in the castings that I see, of course, is the auto index assembly is cast into the base, whereas on this one it's a retrofit. Let's turn it around here so we can look at the mechanism while we're here. The auto index bolts on and is held on with set screws there. Got a little roller cam here, and the cam up underneath sits down and rides on that, and that's what indexes the pawl around. And there's a different shaft instead of just a through bolt. Why, there's a shaft that's attached to this. So those are differences there. And on the flip out wad guide, rather than being fixed and having a spring, whether it's this style spring or a spring that goes around the shaft to hold it in position, there's a tension guide, or a tensioner that sits on top with a spring to flip out the wad guide. When you start to cycle it, it runs against spring tension. And then there's a small boss that sits right down around in here that's got a little V-notch in it. So this sits in, and there's a roll pin that comes through. So it actually rotates the rod with a swing out wad guide that's locked to it when it sits down, so that swings it back out of the way. So anyway, we'll show that more in detail when we get that far. We'll probably have the other 366 unbolted from the bench and be using it for some patterns. So some of the things you want for your 366s is the optional powder and shot shut off. If you don't have that on your 366, that's something you definitely want. I'll link those in the description below. They show those as still being available. Shot and hopper tubes are still available. They make a 2-foot long tube for more capacity. Hornady makes a set of riser feet that they show underneath. The original ones were made out of I-beam. The later ones are just a plastic standoff that goes under each of the 4 legs. And there again, I'll link all those pieces in the description below if you want to upgrade your machines. There's a quick little overview of the project that's going on now. So we'll get started on this. I'm going to go ahead, empty the hoppers of the shot and the powder, and probably strip the top so these castings off, and we'll take some measurements on this. First thing will be to cut off the retainer assembly to that position, lay out where our hole's going to be bored in the top of the casting there, or through the casting there, and positioning our ejector pin. So that'll be the first stuff I do. Then we'll go ahead to the mechanism that sits underneath to advance the turret. So anyway, I hope this is something you'll find a little bit interesting. And thanks for taking the time to watch.